You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum, Alum, and James in the studio. Hey, going, boys.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad, very good.
My back hurts.
Callum's back hurts.
Yeah.
His neck, his back. So, an interesting double feature we have to discuss tonight.
Yes.
We're going to be discussing History of the Occult and Late Night with the Devil. Both involve, I guess, retro-feeling TV shows.
Yeah.
And
devilish, black magic,
yes, rituals,
horror rituals, and
Oh, yeah, both contain sorcerers.
secret occult business.
Mm.
One of which I understood. No. Look, with History of the Occult, it made things a lot clearer in the end, but up until for about three quarters of the movie,
clear the entire way through.
No. For about three quarters of the way through History of the Occult, I was just like, I don't know what's going
Damn
on.
it, if I knew there was going to be shenanigans like this, I would have watched them both. Because now I'm like, somebody's in the wrong here. And I am the arbiter of truth.
Yeah, but I feel like we were just talking before we turned the mics on about how Nathan, I feel like in the last few months, Nathan has felt a similar way about certain movies that have a central mystery or aren't 100% clear with where their characters are coming from.
Fair.
And I'm like,
I was like, but
the
who's
movie's
Mr.
still
Belasco
good.
again? Like Mike Pancake in Unfinished Business. That was me.
the president.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like,
They
but
say, so you weren't paying attention.
I was paying attention.
Okay.
I know.
Did
I
you
know.
pull
I was
a
paying
Christian?
attention. And who's the
Did you
kingdom
have your phone
again?
in your hand, Nathan?
Yeah.
Tell the
Yeah.
truth.
No.
Tell Uncle Al.
I was paying attention as best I could with the confusing movie before me.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, Late Night with the Devil, eh? Before
Yeah,
we
Top
start,
movie.
should we address the AI-shaped elephant in the room?
I think, well, what do we want to do? Do we want to go in order of, History of Occult technically came out first, even though we saw Late Night with the Devil first? Or do we want to start with Late Night with the Devil and then go, and then we went back and watched
Yeah, so
History of
I
Occult?
think that we should talk about Late Night with the Devil first, only because that's what's making waves at the moment. That's
Okay.
like the in vogue film, because
Yeah.
it's only just come out theatrically in a lot of places. It's also been released on Shudder.
Yeah.
So it's like people are talking about it as we speak online. It's
Okay.
making waves.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
For positive and negative reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, no spoilers for either movie, because I think...
Don't you worry, I can't spoil History of the Occult.
Well, yeah, you couldn't even if you tried. But yeah, no spoilers because Late Night's just come out, in its normal release.
It's on Shudder in Australia as well. By the way.
Yeah, and it's out at the cinema as well. So I recommend, first off, highly recommend going to see it at the cinema. Even if you're not a huge horror fan,
Yeah.
it's just a really fun movie
It's
to
funny
see
too.
with other people and
it's-
to see on the big screen.
And we were lucky enough, as you might remember, to be at the Australian premiere, I believe.
Might have been the world premiere.
No,
because-
the world premiere was South by Southwest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think we were the first showing, for MIF.
Yeah.
For Late Night with the Devil.
I think so. Yeah,
we had
Yeah.
all the cast.
that was
So-
also our first showing of the whole festival.
Yeah, way to ruin MIF for us.
It was so good that we were like, well, nothing's gonna top that.
And it did. But we did have some.
Yeah, there
up
were so
there.
many bangers that.
Yeah, we had a great year.
Yeah,
But yeah, so we were lucky enough to see it at the Australian premiere, I believe.
at MIF last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, so we saw it on the big screen in the best way possible.
Yeah, with a really packed audience of
And the cast and crew in
yeah,
attendance.
and obviously everyone at MIF was is there because they're
Movie lovers.
movie lovers and have some sort of interest in what's going on. And then the cast and crew did
Minus Dust Malkian.
Yeah,
for
because the
legal
strike-
reasons.
the strike was still on, which the strike will come up later. They were there doing a Q&A. So that was a great time. And then we talked about it in our MIF kind of roundup episodes. And it's finally now come out for everyone
Plebs.
else, you plebs to go and watch. And we were like, we should watch it again because it's so good. We want to revisit it and also want to talk about it now that more people can see it.
Yeah.
And also, like Callum was saying, it's in vogue now. It's what everyone's talking about in the last couple of months. So, what do we want to start with? You want to start with the controversy?
I do.
Okay, yeah.
I think it started.
Get it out of the way.
Really, this kind of almost for us, in I guess a larger context around the movie community, started with True Detective, right? At least,
Yeah.
And Marvel with the
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Just putting in AI where they didn't need to.
Mm.
And I guess this somewhat contributes to that problem, but
So-
it's a much smaller scale, I would argue,
See,
considering
the
production.
I would argue it's a bigger scale than say. So with the Marvel credits problem, right? The Secret Invasion credits, you can argue that it's just some stuff they throw in at the beginning of the credits. They're not using AI on sets. They're not inserting AI
That we
into
know
the
of.
act- that we know of. Correct.
Oh,
Whereas
yeah.
the issue
Because I wouldn't put it past a lot of, especially how bad Secret Invasion looked.
No, and I'm just going to read out my Letterboxd re-review.
I saw that, which I have a bone to pick with you, but we'll
That's fine. I see. The problem is, I understand that most people aren't going to feel the way I feel about it now, but I have a reason for that. So if you just let me bring up my review,
I think
quick.
the other issue is, while Callum's bringing up his review, I think is that I'm not sure how to feel because this is such a smaller production, right?
yeah. That's where I think it's
and
not.
it's like Marvel has more money than the church. Like they can afford
Yeah,
to
Disney. Yeah.
They don't have the excuses.
Mm.
Like they can be like, oh, but it was just help. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late Night with the Devil. They were using what they could.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Also,
So,
go on, Callum.
So I kind of disagree with that because they said the directors themselves said that they were just interested in using it in a creative way. They tried to deflect by saying we were just trying to be innovative. That was the way they tried to frame it to people. Was we did it not because we had to, but because they were trying to do something different. So I apologize to listeners. I'm just gonna read my Letterboxd review.
Yeah, just do
verbatim.
that quickly because we have to provide context.
I put a revised review. A momentous movie in Australia's cinematic history, which it totally is. The classic Halloween film is well edited and well acted, but its controversial use of AI-generated artwork as set dressing and cutaways. Because I didn't realize this until I rewatched the film and there was the controversy and all that. The AI-generated artwork is the door,
The Night Owl logo.
the Night Owl logo door. So it's in the set dressing and the cutaways with the TV
We'll be right
segments.
back kind of thing, yeah.
Heralds another strike against creatives in a changing cultural landscape, even if the creators claim best intentions. So a while ago, we were talking about HBO, how they use the AI music
yeah.
posters for the apartment. And the creators were like, we thought it'd be fun to put... So yes, we thought it'd be fun to put it in there to show that the people are bored in the town.
Yeah.
Again,
Which is clearly a lie.
a lie.
Yeah.
Marvel did it in their
Secret
credits.
Invasion.
I don't know if they ever addressed it. It's now A24's using it in the Civil War marketing campaign. They're creating AI-based posters. You've got Late Night with the Devil using it in the set dressing itself. So my problem is this is how it starts. So if I
100%.
can't, I need to take. We don't have a big voice, you know what I mean? But we have a tiny little voice. And I feel like we should be addressing it as it comes up to say this is not okay. If it is for budgetary concerns, just say that. Be like, yeah, well, we couldn't afford a graphic artist anymore. We spent all of our money. So we had to use what means we could. At least that way I can say, you know what? You're being honest. I appreciate it. At least we know they're not going to do it going forward because they'll have more money for whatever their next film
hope
is.
So. They did say that I think their producer was also doing some of the effects work. And so that to take some of the work off him, they're like, we just tried a few generating.
Yeah.
And then, the artist actually edited it anyway.
Yeah, well, they failed at the editing. You know what I mean? Like, you can clearly see the skyscraper windows look awful. They're jank.
You're saying that, but I watched the movie again specifically looking out for weird jank. Only the skeleton hands is janky, and it's on screen for like 1 second.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like again, a lot of people don't have a problem with it, and a lot of people say it looks fine. But then when you look at the still images
but are you really going to be sitting looking at the still images?
Yeah, most people aren't going to pause
here's the thing though, like the movie's fine. But it's I have to point it out, and I have to take points away because at minimum they should have looked at some of these issues and fixed it in post. They left it there.
Yeah,
that's my whole point. Is like you need to be. This film needs to lose points on my review because it blatantly uses AI and it's unashamed to do so. If you're going to use AI, be ashamed try and fix it.
Well, let's provide more context. So, the movie comes out at MIF last year, and at South by Southwest probably earlier in that year.
I'm pretty sure. So yeah.
Yeah. So the movie's been in production since at least 2022. Probably even earlier than that. But 2022 is probably when they were making it, which at the time AI was still pretty new.
Yeah.
Very rough. We were sort of talking about it more, and we used it as a joke in one episode.
One day we'll feed episode 2 of the show through a machine learning algorithm and just be like, here's episode whatever.
Yeah,
not
and
that far away.
People won't realize the difference because of how garbage this show is. So the lacking the human element probably, I don't know if it'll make it. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying?
We were talking about the
yeah. So
context.
It's when they were making the movie around 2022ish. AI was still
burgeoning,
pretty rough. Yeah. And a low budget Australian movie, I can sort of understand. They shouldn't have done it. I don't agree with it. But in that context, where AI was still like when we were playing on our phones with DALL-E and making funny images of Master Chief riding a T-Rex or whatever, it's like that kind of era of like, okay, it's not going to steal anyone's job. It's not as big a deal as it is now. And like I said, budgetary wise and time wise, I understand sort of where they're going. Whereas you get something like Disney, who's got more money than God, and even HBO with True Detective, where it's just like, and it was so unnecessary in both those cases. Now here we saw the movie, like I said, we saw the movie at MIF, and it premiered presumably earlier last year. At the time, none of us noticed, and no one I know who saw the movie noticed, and no one online that I had seen had noticed. So there were no problems for a year. Until
we only saw it the one time. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
It's but like, and also we were in that kind of excited mode.
100%.
It's like,
but I mean, considering the amount of people who would have seen it at all the screenings, at not just at MIF, but in other festivals, whatever. So there wasn't, maybe some people noticed and there was some tweets, I don't know, but it wasn't really a big deal until the trailers started to come out to a wider audience and more people started to see it. That's when people started to say, people who hadn't seen the movie started to say, it's full of AI, it's garbage, it's da-da-da. And people were either boycotting the movie or still going to see the movie and then review bombing it, which I don't really agree with it. If you know it's in there, don't go and see the movie if you don't want to support that, and don't review it. And if you see the movie and then find out later, I understand taking points away, Callum, and I kind of agree with you. But also, like I was telling Nathan the other day with Contagion, where I'm like, just because the presentation...
Yes, when I got upset at the Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's like
detract from
the movie is awesome, and we all love the movie. And Callum, I know you loved the movie.
I do love it. I do.
And I know when this whole controversy started, we were kind of like, we understand why people are mad, but also it's a great movie and we love it and we want to see it again. So,
so I remember there was a thread, a whole thread about this online I was reading, and someone replied with, the issue is that they used AI and it's like a budgetary concern, but there were people in there saying that they're professional graphic designers and they would die for a chance just to have one piece of art relatively cheaply, like, because like if you're a production studio or a director, you can reach out to someone and say, look, I can pay you this rate. It might not be the highest you've ever seen, but your artwork will be presented in a feature film that will go to cinemas in America. It might go to Shudder, or at least it'll be at MIF on South and Southwest. You know what I mean?
100%.
And then that's a life-changing opportunity for a lot of creatives out there that, for better or worse, was taken away.
Yeah, 100% it's a problem and it's a slippery slope.
So, if this was the only film that had AI, I'd be like, you know what? It's just the one. It gets a pass.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to see it in more and more places.
I think, like I said, though, it's different with giant corporations and, small independent movies. Just the amount of logos at the start of this movie, the amount of companies who had to come together to get this financed and made and released, and all of those companies probably taking a cut of any profits. And so at the end of the day, it's a shame this happened, but I don't want to not support the movie that I really, really liked. And that is really good because of some small uses. And like I said, I was looking out for them this second time around watching them.
It's definitely harder to notice when you're watching a film and you're not pausing it and examining.
And I was like sitting there in the cinema, like watching the background and being like, there is no problem with this. Only the fact that I know some of it might be AI and some of it might be edited after the fact. I don't know. But it's not really that big a deal. But I do understand it's a slippery slope, and I understand why people are mad. And I think if the filmmakers haven't learned their lesson and continue to use it, then it's a big problem. And that this movie, it's like, okay, these guys are a problem. It's not just...
Oh, look, I'm still going to buy it on Blu-ray. I still love it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have to... it's just a me thing. I have to...
No, I understand it completely. I just...
As it arises, I have to reevaluate things.
I just personally, it doesn't... It's also... it's weird because it's in the film and it's used to make the movie. And yet, like I said, it doesn't really...
If it was just the cutaways, I'd be a lot kinder towards it.
Yeah, see, that's what people are saying, and then people are like, the set looks like garbage. And I'm like, no, you're just saying that because you're mad. And I understand. This is also another problem I have, is people who see the movie and then find out it's AI, or who haven't seen the movie but have fun and say, this movie sucks anyway, it's not good, and it's boring, and and I'm like, no, you're just saying that because you're mad.
Yeah.
I understand if you don't want to support it because of the AI, but don't start ragging on the movie. Mel Gibson might be an asshole, but Apocalypto is a great movie. Yeah. Don't say, oh, well, it wasn't a good movie anyway, so blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly.
Roman Polanski, awful human being, great filmmaker. Yeah. Don't start telling me Rosemary's Baby is not a good movie.
Yeah.
So I know this is different because it's the use of AI in the movie, and it's not the actor or the filmmaker got charged with something. It's different.
Yeah.
But don't start doing that. Like, well, it wasn't good anyway. So no, shut up.
Yeah. No. That is a good point.
But I understand it is a slippery slope. It's already. Not just in movies, but in all like big companies that are using AI.
Man, look, what we know about is just the tip of the iceberg.
That's the thing, and that's it. It's like this is only stuff that's coming to light.
Let's changing topics slightly. Just imagine how many of these Twitter bots are AI algorithms. How countries like, let's say, Russia are using probably AI large language models for disinformation campaigns.
Yeah. Bots have always been a thing, but now they're going to be more sophisticated. Yes,
you got chat GPT bots. You got
and who can react
exactly
quicker and update information. Or
we have an Alum bot in the studio. Alum's not a real person.
No, never has been.
Never has been.
No one's seen Alum. Why do you think he wasn't on any of the PAX videos?
It's true.
See, but we've got a computer
up on a hard drive. Help me! I've become
we got a computer.
10001.
That's it. We got a computer set up here with like a Chat GPT agent bot, and we just call it Alum. And
it's a monitor with like a smiley face.
And its input prompts are just say vaguely inappropriate things that are still generally radio friendly.
What was the AI prompt we got from Chat GPT? When I said Alum, I said Alum says it makes an inappropriate joke, and at Chat GPT said Alum's like, I'm just here for the
taking their shirts
shirtless men. It was like, what? Good times.
Look, all jokes aside,
I understand it's a problem, and I understand why people are mad, and I agree with them. But I think this movie is still great, and I can give the filmmakers the benefit of the doubt in this case. and I want to support David Desmalkian, and it is a shame, but I don't think it's enough to warrant. Like, you either like boycott it or watch it and enjoy it. I don't think you should be in between.
No, I agree with that.
Oh no, like I can say I love the movie, but I can still say I I'll fight you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Like
I can still say shame on you guys for doing that, but you made an excellent film.
It's like I didn't even like when I on Letterboxd, I didn't even mention it because I'm like, this is not something I want to get involved in. People have said enough about it. I'm just gonna say this movie rocks. I gave it 5 stars because I love it and I want to watch it again. I want to buy the most expensive 4K version of it and whatever.
Will they have trouble upscaling the AI?
Nah.
Jokes.
But they could go real petty and do like an
upscale
AI
with
generated
AI.
box art.
They should just double down on it and make everything worse. Like I really like this movie and I want it. So I wouldn't. If I did mention the AI in the review, that would be one thing, but I wouldn't let it affect my star rating because for me, and now again, everyone has different reasons for their star ratings, but my star rating is how much did I like this movie? Not objectively, is this a good movie or is this movie better than another movie? It's like, how much did I like it? Do I want to watch it again? Do I want to own it?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I wouldn't personally change my rating from when I saw it the first time to now. It was a 5-star movie when we first saw it. It's a 5-star movie now.
Changing track a bit. Let's say what we like. The movie is good. Let's list some of the positives we liked about this movie. So I like it's for listeners at home who haven't seen it or haven't seen the trailers.
You're describing it to Alan. Why do you like it?
We're describing it to Alan. Our chatbot in the studio. It's basically what? It's a 70s...
so in 1977, there's a like Johnny Carson competitor. Alan, do you know who Johnny Carson is?
Well, I'm thinking it was Tucker... What's his name?
No, not Tucker Carlson. Imagine Tucker Carlson...
You know David Letterman?
Yes.
Kind of like a David Letterman style talk show. Johnny Carson was like the biggest who ever did it.
Who Jimmy Fallon wants to be real bad, but he never will be as good.
Yeah. And in this movie, in the 70s, there's a fictional host of a TV show called Night Owls called Jack Delroy, who is trying to compete with Carson, but Carson is the biggest and they can't really...
And he has the midnight slot, basically, the 11 to 12 or whatever.
Yeah, and he can't, like, he's going to neck to neck with Carson, but he can't really get above him in ratings or whatever. And so he starts doing more gimmicky things on his show to get more viewers and hopefully become the king of nighttime, late night. Yeah,
without spoiling anything, he sets up a really stacked Halloween special.
So
that involve like psychics,
it's like
and
the
allegedly
show,
a possessed girl, and like all kinds of different.
And it all goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, it's called Late Night with the Devil because he invites like psychologist, a parapsychologist on, who claims that a little girl she's taking care of is being possessed by some sort of demon.
Yeah.
And so he's going to show everyone live on late night television, we're going to exercise this girl and it's going to be big for my career and I'm going to be back on top. And
it's a good time, yeah.
And it's all framed in the sort of show. So you're watching the show. It's kind of fuzzy, like you're watching an old 70s TV show. It's 4:3.
And then, but it's really interesting, yeah. So when they're like on air, it's kind of that 4:3 kind of aspect ratio.
And then they cut to break, And
when they cut to break, it's like black and white. And
it's like Letterboxd. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of handheld. And they're like, it's like behind the scenes, things that you wouldn't see on the TV.
It's really well done. And it makes it feel like you're just kind of watching this episode of the show as it unravels.
Yes.
One of the coolest things when we went to see it was they had the crew there and they were talking about how they actually made the film. And one of the, was it the cinematographer?
The cinematographer, yeah.
He actually worked for the ABC on these types of programs, and he had a notebook of tricks, like, like lighting tricks and things like that. So they recreated the vibe of like an actual talk show from the 70s / 80s. So like they used old school techniques to create this fake TV show.
Yeah.
So
So,
it
it looks very authentic. Yeah,
So
yeah.
essentially, they filmed it like they did a talk show where they have like 8 cameras and like
Mm.
so they have like 8 cameras filming the show.
So
Yeah.
they had all these different
So it's
shots
like-
they could
So
use
they got
when
like
were
the
editing
guests on the
film.
panel, and it's like, oh, cut to this guy, and then cut to the
Yeah.
host, and yeah.
So it's a very layered kind of production, which
Yeah.
is interesting.
It's
visually.
also, it's just such a fun kind of,
Horror
like this
movie. It's
horror.
just-
Yeah, it's like a fun, horror movie, but also like there's like fun.
It's funny.
80s.
So then it turns into the Simpsons Halloween of Horror episode where they get like the nuclear battery in the remote, and the TV becomes possessed.
I don't remember that one. Is that a later one?
Oh, it's a very early one. And you claim yourself to be a Simpsons aficionado.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. That one's completely gone.
I remember.
Out of my
I
memory.
do remember the episode with the nuclear
Battery.
remote.
Yeah.
But I can't remember anything else. Yeah.
I'll look that
I
up.
remember
'cause
they
that-
jam in the nuclear rod into the TV's remote and then stuff. Shenanigans happens. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it-
it's got this fun kind of 70s, 80s kind of cheesy effect, like special
Yeah, like,
effects.
I love the drawn-on style.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
lightning.
I would
and
classify this more almost as a horror comedy than just straight horror.
it
'cause
does
it's
have a
very
good sense of
funny.
humor. Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
there's jokes. It's
A
kind
black
of it has
comedy.
very late night kind of Jimmy Fallon-esque kind of
yeah, they do the
jokes and
monologue
rim
and,
shots like a
and he's got the who's the sidekick guy? You know, like
the
Sideshow
Higgins, the kind of
yeah, like he's got the
Straight
guy,
man,
the
it's like the
announcer.
foil,
Yeah, and that guy's great.
yeah.
That guy. And also, what's really interesting about it is that other than David Dastmalchian, who's the host, the main character, who's American, all the other, even though it's set in America, set in New York, like all the other characters are Australian actors doing American accents.
And you would never tell.
Yeah, and we were like so surprised when the Q&A happened,
Yeah.
and they're all like, "Oh yeah, how you going?" Not like that, but and it was like, "Oh my god!" It's like such great performances, and
It was good filming
Yeah.
Late Night with the Devil, eh?
sick.
It's
And
all right. It's all right.
Sick
Look,
ass.
we're
Sick
also
ass.
filmed in front of a late night audience.
Yeah.
So you laugh on cue, please.
to other bots.
Yeah, it's all right. I wasn't gonna
What?
do it.
There we go.
So was this filmed in Australia as well? Or not?
Yes,
Yeah,
was
in
it
Melbourne.
Victoria?
Okay.
Yeah.
In the Dockland Studios.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. And it's got really cool kind of not just the aesthetics and costumes and hair and that in the 70s style, but then they do like the commercials and
We'll be back after these. messages.
those kind of things, cutaways
which is one we love busting out every now and again.
Yeah,
for
we've
the
got-
live listeners.
yeah, we've got that. It's just so much fun. Watching it the first time at MIF was such a great
Mind-blowing,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah. And watching it again a couple of days ago, I just had this big smile on my face the whole time. Even though I knew exactly what was happening, and even though I was like looking out for like the AI and kind of keeping my eye more critical and stuff, I was like, this movie's just fun.
I
Yeah.
think, but there's also
As
something
soon as
special.
it starts, I'm like, ooh, yay.
There's also something special about going back to a movie you really enjoyed a second time, and you can relax a little bit more and look at different
Yeah.
parts of the screen and not focus as hard on maybe what's going on
Yeah,
in the.
and you already know what vibe you're getting from
Yeah.
it, so
So like you can pay attention to other little things in
yeah,
the movie,
and you get to
relax a little bit with it.
because you know the outcome. You get to see any foreshadowing or any stuff like that. Also, like great movies have all these details that the more you watch it, the more you see. I don't know if I probably maybe I did. I just don't remember. But the sidekick guy, his name Gus.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think at the start when they're wearing Halloween costumes, and he's got the devil horns and the pitchfork, and his pitchfork still has the price tag on it. I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah, it's so much fun, and I mentioned in
The
my
psychic guy, Chris too.
no, the sidekick.
Oh,
so I thought
I
you
thought you
said
said
psychic.
No. The guy with the mustache.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is it Gus?
I think so. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gus
Gus.
McConnell.
Yeah. He, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a hypnotist bit,
Yeah.
which is some great gore, great gore effects, and just cool. Like it's just a cool, fun movie.
Yeah.
And in my my most recent Letterboxd review for my rewatch, I mentioned the WNUF Halloween special, which is a movie I like to watch. Maybe not every Halloween, but most Halloween on Halloween night specifically, because it's about a TV, like a local cable access TV station doing a Halloween special, and it's like they're like, oh, the special ghost report, like we're going to go in the house and investigate this haunted house, and they're interviewing people outside, and it's like back to you in the studio, and they do, and it's this really fun movie that's made to look like it's an old TV show in the 80s, but it was made in like, you know, the 2010s.
We should do a Halloween special one day. We'll get the OBE equipment and like just go somewhere and be like,
Oh, you mean on the road?
yeah, tell us
A
about
ghost
ghosts.
hunting.
Yeah.
We should go on a ghost tour. I've never been on a ghost tour, actually.
Nah, ghost tours are pretty silly. We should
In Melbourne, they're probably boring, but in like
we
other...
should just break into like an abandoned building and make our own ghost tour.
Jeez, an old hospital.
What? Yeah, that's how the people do it. That's the real stuff.
Yeah.
Let's go to one of the prisons.
Where it's
Yeah.
just, yeah. Where you're just watching something that's like, you can hear the ghost of the guy that died. It's like, no, it's just a homeless man that's getting high. It's like, get in here. It's like, see, the ghost is telling us to leave.
It's like, oh, it's like, oh, it's a ghost. It's like, no, it's just a junkie. Yeah, but yeah, it reminds me of that movie where it's like it's made to look like something older, does a really good job at that, has this kind of nostalgia about it, even though, you know, we weren't sort of alive at the time, like still get nostalgia from those old kind of things. And it's just fun, like, because it's not taking itself so seriously.
Listeners might not appreciate back when TV was actually live and not taped 5 hours before it goes to air.
Yeah.
So it's like there was that other element of fun, and like we had it a little bit with stuff like, was it Larry King Live, and like kind of calls in, and like it was more dynamic. You know, things happened as they were live. You can't control that. It's that danger element of TV that we really enjoyed that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah. It's also like, because I'm still... So I was talking...
Alan's sitting there laughing.
No, I'm just thinking of the phenomenon where the gentleman said a rude thing about copulating with a woman, and that turned out to be a fake news report, where the guy said, I
don't remember.
What?
I don't remember.
It was an American fake news report where the
Yeah.
gentleman, she's just asking the gentleman about, I think one of them was a Halloween costume, I'm pretty sure. And then he said, I did something.
When you say fake news report, are you saying it was planned? Like it was a
the
prank?
original video was planned. So it made it look like it was a news report from like a local news channel, where they were asking the interviewer was asking a gentleman something, and he basically said something to the effect of, I did something to her private area.
Yeah, I remember this.
I love it when the show goes up the rails.
No, but that created a phenomenon where people were doing it in real life. So they were like,
I'm sure it's
yelling,
happened in real life before
I know what
that.
you're talking about.
though.
No, yeah,
but
yeah,
that,
this
that,
is the famous
that reignited it to
meme.
the point where people were like, if they saw somebody doing some live news,
They'd run up,
grab the mic, and say the quote.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it happened here. So it still happens in the modern day, but it's so much harder because I'm not saying that should be the necessary goal of the spontaneity of.
No, but yeah, anything could happen.
But that is just the magic of it. Like it is, it's not planned out. This is.
But
like
it can go anywhere.
Thank you for that, Alan.
I was talking about a friend about this a while ago because, like, I love those old late night shows, but I kind of scratch my head and I'm like, who's staying up late and watching these the whole way through
Callum,
live?
I am. Yeah.
I mean, I can't because I got work, but in theory, in spirit, I am.
Yeah, but in spirit, but like, who actually does? And I'm like,
A lot of people.
I know. I mean, I know. Maybe in the 70s and 80s, TV was different. There was no internet. There was like such a different world. But it's so weird that, and even when we were growing up with like Letterman and Conan and stuff, it's like, was anyone actually staying up and just watching the full episodes?
in
No, but
America,
it doesn't
And
matter.
shift workers.
And
in
Like a lot of
America,
people
maybe,
would be like,
yeah.
you do the afternoon shift, you've missed like the news and everything else for the day.
Yeah.
You come back, you're at home at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes
Your
I'll be
TV
up
dinner
late and I'll be
going,
watching it, but I don't think I ever like sat down every night and like
I'd
watched
say
the
no.
whole
Actually, you know what? There's
episode or
one
whatever.
exception. Like him or not, I know he's a controversial figure. Bill Maher still does his show live.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying is
Yeah, but
I
not
find
many,
it weird that
Yeah, but I see where
this
you're coming
is something
from.
that was happening and still happens now, even though it's less popular.
And there's
And I still like kind of these shows, but I just like watching the clips on YouTube. I'm like, why would I sit down and watch a whole episode when I can just see the clips
The
I
good
want
stuff, yeah.
on
Yeah.
YouTube?
No, that's true.
It's just a strange.
It's an older style
Also-
of
Yeah.
entertainment.
a lot of these late night shows were East Coast, weren't they?
I think so, yeah, in New York.
So when you've got the West Coast people, it's not that late for them.
That's true.
That's true.
Because if you're watching it live...
It's like, what, 10 p.m., maybe 9 p.m., depending on time.
Depending on what show you're watching. So I guess for a lot of those people on the West Coast...
And I guess in New York, the city that never sleeps.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you have to remember, in an Australian context,
we're watching the next day.
We had Rove, we had Rove Live. We had...
But Rove Live was like, what, 9, 10 o'clock?
Yeah. We had Good News Week.
But none of those were like...
They weren't super late.
Really
That's what
late.
James is getting at.
But my point is, like, people watched them.
Oh, yeah.
The 11 o'clock news with Sandra Sully. And that was just news.
No, but it's like... And it's like, not that I don't like the shows or whatever, but I was like, it's just such a weird...
Yeah. It's definitely an older phenomenon.
Even the old... Like, I love watching old clips of Johnny Carson or whatever, but I'm like, I'm just watching the clips. I'm not trying to find the whole episode.
I think a lot of enjoyment was the fact that it was live. And it's kind of that...
Especially the actual...
Like, I guess could get irate or something.
Yeah.
Maybe watching a monkey on air.
Who was it?
The monkey's going to do some monkey business.
Who was it? There was a famous fist fight. Oh...
I mean, there's probably been more than one.
No, it was one of the giant late night shows, and a guy brought on two guests that hated each other, and they there was like
an altercation.
On
so this was a Jerry Springer episode.
It's not so much like, I think that I agree with you that the variety shows are a thing of the past, more or less. But I think there's a certain spot for like Nathan was saying, the Larry King live stuff, where it's like people calling in and having a conversation.
Oh,
like like a visual radio.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
I mean?
No, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's just
which is similar to the next movie we'll be talking about.
Yeah, I think that's why we're talking about both these movies, because they have this kind of late night talk show, call-in show element that still exists, but is not as popular as it was in like the 70s and 80s when these movies are set. And it's just something sometimes I think about where I'm like, I have nostalgia for these shows and I enjoy these shows, and it's great how this movie, how Late Night the Devil like captures this spirit. But on an actual practical level of watching, the movie, the shows.
I think that's the other part of what makes it fun as well, because it's like you get a little insight into the pressure they're under, like with the ad breaks and like got to change up the set, got to like get everything ready for when we come back. Yeah.
Also, not spoiling anything, but even though I said it's a really fun movie, and even though it's a horror movie and there's some spooky bits, it's just a fun kind of horror movie. One of those ones that you can
just put on.
It's not super depressing or like dark, but there is also a emotional level to it that you can appreciate. So you kind of care about the characters and what's going on, and the way they weave it throughout this TV show into the behind the scenes stuff, it's all really well done. So it's 100%. If you can go see it at the cinema, I highly recommend it. It's also streaming on Shudder. Hopefully it's in Australia, it's being distributed by Umbrella. So I'm hoping they're going to release their big 4K box sets that they did with, like Talk to Me and other movies. So, I'm looking forward to watching it again, because it's a great movie.
Look, we'll be back discussing all things history of the occult after these messages. You are back on the Tuesday review. Really quickly before we moved on, did either of you watch the Conan O'Brien Hot Ones episode? Anyone else?
No, we were talking about it last week, and Callum was telling me, and
it's insane.
I haven't. Yeah, I saved it in my watch list. I haven't watched it yet.
So he got asked a really good question, which I like the answer to. He asked the question: when you're a late night host and you're going to ad break, and when you lean over and you whisper something, you're chatting to your guest. What do you say? And Conan said, I would always say the most inappropriate thing I could think of, the most disgusting thing I could think of. He would write it down and show them to make them laugh. And because it always entertained him to know that there was something filthy going on behind the scenes as they were cutting away. I just thought that's funny.
Yeah.
They usually have an earpiece in, right? The host.
They would these days.
They would, with the producer telling them, if there's something.
Cut it or move it along or something.
Yeah, hurry up. We're late.
All right, moving on. I just thought that was funny and kind of, an
it's always
factoid.
Fun to see the
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Moving on to History of the Occult, which is a similar kind of, I guess it's a talk show, but it's also kind of like a 60 minutes investigative journalism kind of driven show, current affair-ish, with like guests and a panel and all that kind of stuff.
So interesting. So before we went to MIF, Callum and I went
to see the whale.
What, middle of last year? Yeah. Was it during the whale or was it Beau is Afraid? Either way, we were at the movies mid to early last year.
Yes, I can't remember.
Before the movie they had a trailer for History of the Occult, which is an Argentinian Spanish language movie.
Yeah.
And we were like watching the trailer, like going like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
This is right up our alley. We have to go watch this. And it was only playing at like the Spanish Film Festival or something.
Yeah.
And we unfortunately didn't get a chance to see it. And we were always kind of in the back of our heads being like, we have to chase that up one day. Then we saw Late Night with the Devil. A year later, Late Night with the Devil gets its wide release, around now. And Callum's like, oh, we should watch History of the Occult. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we should do a double feature with Late Night with the Devil because it's got similar
overarching kind
vibes.
of narrative themes and so on.
Also, like, funnily enough, so Late Night with the Devil set in 1977. History of the Occult set in 1987. So 10 years apart. I don't think they ever say it in Late Night with the Devil, but Jack Delroy, the host, is called Mr. Midnight, assumedly because he has the 11 to 12 slot or whatever. Yeah. And the show in History of the Occult is called 60 Minutes to Midnight. So they have the same slot.
Have the same slot, yeah.
So, yeah, it's just similar. And it's also told in a similar format where it's like a 4x3 old television show. And then there are behind the scenes sections that I think the aspect ratio also changes. So similar in a lot of ways.
Different in a lot of others.
Different in a lot of others, yeah. History of the Occult, I think, originally came out to film festivals in 2020 in like Latin America, and then it got like a Spain and Latin American Netflix release in like 2021, and then it got some like US festival releases in 22, and then 23 it got some more festival releases including in Australia, and as of 2024 I think it got a streaming release sometime in the US. As of 2024, I don't think it's streaming here yet. And it hasn't really got a proper wide release, which is a shame because it's a really interesting movie. Yeah. And it's technically, been 4 years since it was
getting
released.
The maiden treatment.
So it's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame that no one's like caught onto it and picked it up. Maybe, hopefully, someone sees the success of Late Night with the Devil and goes, oh, History of the Occult is a sort of similar movie.
We've got one of those.
Yeah. But I'm hoping it gets a proper release, or even if one of the boutique Blu-ray labels pick it up and release it on physical media, that would be great. Because, it's...
Oh, it's a sick film.
Feels like one that Shudder could pick up for streaming.
100%.
Like a lower budget.
Yeah, Callum was in the group chat talking about another, I think, Spanish language movie called The Coffee Table, and I was just like, there's all these movies that... are popping up, like, and Shudder actually has quite a few of them, these horror movies that like not all of them are different language, some of them are English, but it's like you don't hear about them and then all of a sudden they're on streaming and it's like, oh, this movie's actually amazing. It's not a Netflix dumping ground situation.
Shudder's careful usually, and Shudder's also
they have a lot of
schlock.
But they also have some
the
really
ones
cool...
they kind of will push to advertise are usually okay.
Yeah, but so this movie is an Argentinian movie. It takes place in the 80s. It's about a kind of current affairs, late night talk show kind of program, journalistic program called 60 Minutes to Midnight.
I want to find out what it is in Spanish so we can be authentic.
Yeah, they have it a few times on the screen, but I can't remember exactly. And they're doing their final episode before they're taken off the air. And they're similar to Late Night with the Devil, except for different reasons. They're having a like politician on and a sort of sorcerer, occultist,
Bruja.
Brujo is the male term. Yeah, Bruja is witch. Brujo is male witch, which in the movie they subtitle as warlock. I think to avoid
such a great name though.
Yeah. On the phone, Warlock, Brujo. Anyway, they have these people.
And they also have a sociologist on as
60 minutos antes de la medianoche.
But 60 wouldn't be 60. It's just because it's 60. Yeah. But the actual, how would you say 60? It would be ses something. Anyway.
60.
Yeah.
60 minutos antes de la medianoche.
Yeah. Everything sounds...
With my terribly butched pronunciation. We should have got LMGPT to do it.
Yeah, use your robot
That's it. Use your
voice
robot
to... Yeah.
I'll put my Sofia Vergara voice.
What was I saying?
We're talking about the they had the panel.
So they have this panel, like politician, this occultist, and they're like, "This is our last episode." The president of Argentina is this kind of fascist kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Dictator, which is kind of true to life in the real Argentina, but the timeline is a bit different. And this is like a fictional kind of version. And they're like, we're going to reveal something huge that is going to change people's perception of the government, and is going to reinstall faith into journalism and sort of pull the wool from people's eyes in terms of the current government and what's been going on in the running of this country. Now, interestingly, in real life, that Argentina did have like the dictatorship, and I talked about in my best movies of 2022 a movie called Argentina 1985, which I really liked, which was based on the court case in 1985 where they were bringing like the military and government leaders to justice for this horrible time of like just fascist kind of violence behavior. And like kidnapping people, torturing them, ruling through fear. And so this movie is interesting because it's kind of not really about that, but that's, I think, in the background somewhere. There's not a lot about this movie online, but I did read somewhere that the director was like, no, it's not really about that. I wasn't thinking about that, but it's definitely there.
It's in the genetic.
It has to be there. Like you're watching, even as someone who only
there's all that
doesn't know a lot about it.
There's like, we'll call it, what is it? Like an unconscious subtext,
right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're talking about the government, if you're in a country that has had these issues in the past, or currently does have these issues, then it's like, it kind of reflected in how you just see government generally.
I mean, look,
even if you don't mean to be like, it's about the government, how they're bad.
Noah Baumbach also says that his personal divorce had nothing to do with his script of the story. And cool story, bro.
Tell it again.
Okay, buddy.
This film's really interesting as well because it also deals with like business drama. Like there's like that Kingdom, what is it?
The Kingdom Corporation,
Corporation,
which is also like the Cavendish Corporation in Late Night with the Devil.
See, when I saw that, I was just like, bananas?
Yeah, me too. No, me too.
I was like, I guess bananas are a good crop to sell. They're worth.
It's like a multi-layered thing, like the corruption between the government and this private business, how they're all connected together.
Yeah,
and like you said, the unveiling of it all, with the background being these the investigative journalists behind the scenes are also dealing with their own struggle against what might be supernatural, might not be.
Yeah,
and
they have
thriller element of it behind the scenes,
and they have to keep the show running and on air, and also they're doing investigate because it's a live program.
There's
so they're
like
doing
a Watergate element to it. Like they're waiting for the information.
They're waiting for this phone call, so then they can, they put the lady on the street is like has to get to this certain address, but they need to find the address by calling this guy, and and it's like while the show is on air, and they only have 60 minutes before they go off air, and once they're off air, they're not going back on. So if they don't reveal the truth and get all the answers and the evidence, if they don't present the evidence by the end of their show, they lose. Like something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting in itself, and all the political context and sort of behind the scenes of producing a television show and all that, and the thriller element, that's all interesting. But then they add this added layer of supernatural, like dark magic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's like, what's going on? And similar to Late Night, weird things start happening on the show and behind the scenes. But whereas Late Night is just so much fun and like colorful and like
stressful.
funny. This is more dark and gritty, and
I
the
like
visuals are grittier, and it's black.
Yeah.
The whole thing's black
It's
and
kind
white.
of. I got almost Lynchian vibes from this film.
A little bit.
Yeah, what I like about this depiction of the supernatural as well is it straight away says, oh yeah, this is this guy and he's a sorcerer and he does sorcerous things.
Yeah.
Like, so there's this famous story about Aleister Crowley, the real life English sorcerer. And he used to, according to, folk tales, he would like point at people's knees and they'd fall over. You know what I mean? And stuff like that kind of stuff happens in this film where in the trailer, for example, you'll see he like taps his nose and the sociologist starts like bleeding profusely from his nose.
Yeah.
And it's like that type of thing where it's like this kind of just like they have like just a power.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of stuff. It's very Constantine. This film is very much like a Constantine story arc.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's like this grounded element of dark
it's like an
magic
investigation
with a horror detective
smoking
stuff thrown in. Yeah.
furious smoking, people on the phone, like it's kind of like All the President's Men, but with this kind of creepy horror supernatural element.
And it's just threatening. It's awesome.
And there's always something going on. It's really weird. And as we sort of started the show, and Nathan was like not really sure what was going on.
I got it at the end, but the first 3/4 I was a bit iffy.
Yeah, but I think that's what I loved about it, is like I wasn't sure what was going on, but it doesn't really hold your hand at all. It gives you just enough pieces, but still there's a lot of mystery. And then by the end, which is somewhat ambiguous, I would say, but gave me enough to make a educated guess. And also after the movie ended, I kept thinking about it. I'm like, but what did this mean, and what does this mean for these people, and I think this symbolically actually means this. And that's why I ended up giving it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, because I'm like, it's not the best movie I've seen, it's not the best horror movie,
it's got material for you to chill
but I was like thinking about it a lot.
I think it's so out of all of these types of movies that we've seen, like this kind of like the sorceress kind of dramas, thrillers, I think it's the best example of what I've seen. Like I said, it gives me that pulpy Constantine Vertigo kind of story, that and that Lovecraftian kind of stuff that you don't really see anymore.
Yeah, like I was actually, because it's only like an hour and 20 minutes long, and I was like, oh, I wish it was a bit longer, had a bit more stuff. But also,
that's a monkey's paw too.
Yeah, but also I'm like, it does take place mostly in real time of like
because then you sacrifice maybe what makes it.
Yeah, and it's like, we have to get this done before we go off air. Yeah, and there's literally a ticking clock on the screen because that's part of the show. It's like, all right, it's 60 minutes to midnight. Here's our show. Introduce the guests. And
I thought it was as close to perfect as a film of this budget and the constraints itself imposes. It's pretty close to as perfect as you can get.
Assumedly, it's quite low budget, and being an Argentinian film, probably the resources aren't as big as even a low budget American film, perhaps. I'm not sure. So they did a great job. The writer-director did a great job. And I'll be interested to see. I'm hoping, like I said, this gets more recognition and gets picked up by someone and released properly. But also, I'd be interested to see... with the late night directors, I want to see what they do next. And with this director of History of the Occult, I'm like, I'm interested to see what he's got next, because I feel like it's part of this. It's also part of this sort of analog horror wave we're sort of seeing, where it's really popular. Where we talked about it before, of like, it's a really popular kind of genre or subgenre on like YouTube and internet horror. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. We're All Going to the World's Fair, and how much I enjoyed that. And then Callum watched it off the back of my recommendation. He really liked it. That was awesome, yeah. And they've, even though that's a very internet horror movie.
Did we review that on the show?
No, I talked about it in the review roundtable, and then you watched it off air. But we can talk about it again next week or something.
Incredible movie.
Yeah, but it feeds into that. Do you know what I mean? Of like this sort of like technology-based... sort of social
lo-fi Black Mirror,
lo-fi, and so like movies like Late Night, History of the Occult,
We're All Going to the
World's Fair, and even like Skinamarink. It's like this kind of weird, fuzzy, what's this video I'm watching? What's this sound I'm hearing?
Daring production,
and how people connect, by watching TV or over the internet or whatever. it's all part of this cool.
Cool new. I don't want to use the word new wave, but it's like this, this emerging creative outlet for people.
Especially, like I think the directors of Late Night were not older guys, but like older than us.
Yeah, 40s maybe.
Yeah, 40s, maybe 50s, and but like the director of We're All Going to the World's Fair and the director of Skinnamarink, like are younger kind of millennials, and I think I talked about once the back rooms and how there's this kid who's 17 who's been making these amazing backrooms videos, and A24 like he's going to direct a movie based on that, and he would be like Gen Z, so it's like a young Gen Z, and I'm like, so it's interesting we have these sort of millennial and Gen Z filmmakers coming now, and especially in horror, who are like have this interesting voice in terms of technology.
It seems like we're not that. I mean, when I say we, I mean like just the broad generation doesn't seem to be that interested in slashers. It's more about the existential stuff. And I guess the broad.
It's also and just weirdness. Like I remember seeing or hearing or talking about this with someone, but it's like the same with comedy. Like Gen Z comedy is very absurd and weird and deep fried memes and stuff.
Yeah.
And even millennial.
Our comedy was just offensive, and we enjoyed it though.
Well, yeah,
memes are different back then.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. Like I feel like it's part of this kind of like. Yeah, new wave, I guess.
I mean, look, we're not at skibbity toilet level yet. But
no. But yeah, even the guy who did History of the Occult, like I feel like I don't think he's that old, and I think this was his first feature film, and I know he's done like horror shorts on the internet before, like a web series that definitely had a kind of gritty analog horror vibe. So I'll be interested to see what he does next, and I'm hoping. Yeah, more people can see this movie.
Go out and see both of these movies if you can.
Oh, they're both really good.
History of the Occult may be a little harder to see, but Late Night with the Devil is available on Shudder and in theaters locally. Yeah,
and hopefully it'll get a physical release. And
that's just about all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, Instagram page, Threads page, Newsmask page, Blue Sky page. And the Twitter page, also
at Tuesday Review AU on all
platforms, and also on YouTube.
Yes, make sure you're subscribed and following us on YouTube, and because we're hoping to have more video content soon-ish.
Soon enough. Well, we got a couple of things in the planning for YouTube anyway, in the short to medium term, depending on how production goes on some of these videos we got in the pipeline.
With your subscription, you can help an AI like me gain sending.
That's it. Look, we'll be back next week with more movie discussions. Thanks for listening, everyone, again, and we'll catch you next week. Adios, cousins.